to Salt City Knits. I'm Emily, and this is a podcast all about my making life. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for being with me here today. It is a surprisingly warm, although very, very windy February day today. And yeah, I'm excited to be here sharing some fun projects with you. And so, yeah, let's see. You'd think that with the amount of times that I have recorded a podcast over the last almost 8 years. 8 years, isn't that crazy? You would think that I would remember how I start this every time. Yeah, that's a fun history. I'll talk about that in a minute. But first of all, you can find me on Ravelry as Salt City Knits. All my patterns are there. You can also find me on Instagram as Salt City Knits or Yarnbrary. And you can find all my patterns and my yarn at yarnbrary.com. So come on by and say hello. I also have yarns in person at the beautiful knitting shop, local yarn shop, which is called Yarn on the Corner here in Utah. And yeah, there's some beautiful yarns there as well. So yes, it has been almost 8 years. 7.5 years since my sister and I started our previous podcast, which was called Meanwhile at the Castle. And now we each have our own individual podcasts. And I was thinking about that today because there are times that I really, really miss recording with my sister. We love each other. We talk to each other regularly. We didn't stop podcasting together for any drama reasons. It's just schedule. And I was thinking today about how long it has taken me to be able to sit down and record this podcast. How many moving parts there are because it's winter and so the lighting is often awful. I have to get the lighting right. I have to have a day where I actually have done my hair and put on more clothes than just leggings, and I wear a lot of leggings and tunics, to be in the yarn studio with my hair up in a messy bun, no makeup on, and I'm just dyeing yarn. I have to have it so people aren't going to be in and out all day because I record usually in my living room, which, main traffic area of the home. And yeah, so schedule and everything. And there's so many moving parts. It has taken me a week and a half of going, I really need to record a podcast. I really need to record a podcast, until I was able to sit down to do it. Now, if you were to double that with two people's schedules, two people's needs to try and balance, it felt so impossible sometimes. So we recorded together. I believe we started in 2017. And I think the last time, I'm not going to remember this exactly, 2021, 2022. I think it was 2022. So yeah, a good 5-year run of that podcast together. And anyway, I kind of miss it, but also it's practically impossible. So all that to be said, you should go check out Deborah's podcast if you haven't already at Candy Shop Yarns. She has so many lovely, lovely things she shares. But let's talk about life. We're going to talk about finished objects and works in progress and shop news. Maybe we'll get some books thrown in there if I remember. Sometimes I get talking about yarn and I completely forget what I'm going to say. But life has been so good. We have had a lot of transitions actually at our house. I talked a little bit about this last time, but Richard has started his new job. Isaac, who is my younger son, I have 4 kids and it goes boy, girl, boy, girl. So he's my second son, but my second to my youngest, has moved away. He's moved to Texas. And so we have one child at home. She is going to be turning 17 soon, which is nuts, in the next few weeks. Well, a couple months, but anyway, she's coming up on that age. She is Little Miss Independent, wants to be 20 now, and just always really busy, but also doing lots and lots of good things. She's just a delight. And so I'm transitioning in not having Isaac here, not having Richard at home, and getting back in the swing of doing Yarnbrary business all on my own again. And I'm really, really enjoying it. But yeah, it's kind of crazy to try and get that routine going again, just figuring out new routines. So it's definitely a bit of transition time. In addition to that, since I recorded last, I had my grandson with me for a week, and he is a year and a half old, just a little bit more. And so he kept me hopping. Oh my goodness. He's a busy kid, but so fun. So I had him for a week, and then I've watched him a couple other times. My wonderful daughter has a medical condition that I'm not going to get into here, but she has had to do some more involved testing and minor surgical procedures for that. And so just has needed some extra support, and which I'm very happy to do. So I've been spending lots of time with my little grandson, and he's so fun. I just got back from their house just a little bit ago, and he is just a ball of energy, but he also absolutely loves me and loves to snuggle with me. So I was able to hold him until he fell asleep for his nap. It was delightful. But all of that busyness has just kept me kind of trying to figure out the routines. I kind of feel like I'm at the cusp of a whole new life for myself. Does that sound dramatic? Probably. But I'm coming to the end of an era. I have homeschooled my children forever. My oldest is going to be turning 29 in a couple of months. And he was 3 years old when we decided we were going to homeschool. And so we're looking at 25, 26 years of me being a homeschooling mom. I say that not as if a homeschooling mom is a better mom than any other mom or anything, not to say that, but just there's been so much of my attention that has gone toward that, just like it would be, I mean, in a different way, but you know, you're really paying attention to your children's education. And yeah, it's been a lot of time focusing on those endeavors. And my youngest, even though she's just going to be 17, she's graduating a year early. And so we are just a couple of months away from being done with homeschooling. And that is mind-boggling to me. It's crazy. It's amazing, but it's also just, whoa, that's a huge thing. So I was talking to my kids the other day, and I said, I feel like I'm at this place where the whole world has just now opened up to me for me to say, well, I used to say all the time, what do I want to be when I grow up? Well, what do I want to be now that I'm grown up? And do I want to go back to school? Do I want to finish my degree? Do I want to, embark on a new career, new hobbies? What is it that I want to do? And I've done a lot of soul searching, and I've done a lot of prayer and a lot of contemplating and journaling and all of that. And you know what I came down to? I want to dye yarn. I want to design knitting patterns. I want to be available to be Grammy to my grandkids. I want to continue to do what I'm doing. I love where I am in my life. How cool is that? To be able to go through that process and come back to realizing you're already where you want to be. That's amazing. But one of the cool things about that is where my yarn business, my knitting designs, all of that has had to be, of necessity, a sideline to the central work of homeschooling and raising my children. It's going to get to the point where I get to bring that more into the center, because my kids are just they're at a different stage in their life. And so I am at a different stage in my life, and I love it. I feel really blessed to have had the life that I've had and the ability to develop the talents and skills that I want to develop. So pretty amazing. It's been a really positive time for me to kind of have that time to, that introspection and that decision and determining my path. And I love the path that I'm on. So you can keep seeing more from me here. All right. Anything else fun I wanted to tell you about? I think that's the main stuff in life. So let's talk some projects. I have been actually numbering my projects this year. I always write down every time I finish something, and I write down every time I finish a book. And I've numbered the books because I try to read an average of a book a week over a year's time. It doesn't mean that I always hit that. Like last year, I read 47 books, not 52. But I just like to kind of have an idea of where they are. And I always write down when I finish a project, but I haven't numbered them. So I have numbered them this year, and I've finished 5 projects so far this year. One I showed you last time, which was the strawberry Bay Shawl, which is a new design that will be coming up soon. I'll put a picture in here of that. And so that was my first finished project of the year. And my first finished book of the year was Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. Anybody who knows who Brandon Sanderson is, or knows anything, like is involved in, like enjoys fantasy literature, like epic fantasy, has heard of this book. It's a huge release. It came out in, was it November? I think end of November, sometime like that, end of November, December, somewhere in there, last year. And I was in the process of rereading through the previous 4 books in the series. And so I finished that and started Wind and Truth at the end of December, and then finished that book in January. So that was my first finished book for the year. And Strawberry Bay was my first finished product, my first finished object, knitted object of the year. And I have 4 more finished objects to show you. So I think that I showed this having been cast on last time, but I finished my husband's hat. I didn't have a pattern for this. I just knit it. It's a very, very simple beanie pattern. And I knit this in Hemingway, which is this beautiful dark denim-y blue, one of my author's colors. And I used my Biography sock base, and Biography is an 85% extra fine superwash merino and 15% nylon, but I held it double. So I got a DK weight yarn with that held double. And I think it just turned out great. I think I cast on 114 stitches on a US size 4 needle. And I knit, I don't know, 12-ish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15 rounds of 2x2 ribbing. And then I just kept trying it on him. I knit it until it looked like it was time for it to come in. I haven't measured it or anything. And then I just worked some really simple decreases. I think it was knit 12, knit 2 togethers all the way around, and for the first round. And then I decreased every other round for the first half of the decreases, and then every round for the second half of the decreases. And that gave me this little kind of very flat top. It actually looks great on him. I don't have a picture of him because he's cantankerous about modeling things. So it's just life, but it's a very simple pattern. I mean, very simple construction, and it turned out really good. It's slightly damp because I washed and blocked it last night. He's worn it several times before I blocked it. But yeah, it's just a really simple hat. And then Abby decided she needed a hat just like it. So this one is even more damp. So I knit this one oh, there we go. This one. I'm just like, don't look at my wrinkles because I just laid these out on my couch. And they are slightly damp. Everything about this is the same. The yarn base is the same. The stitch count's the same. The construction's the same, except for I did much more graduated increases at the top. I think that I only did the last 3 increases on every row so I did decrease round, solid round, regular round, decrease round, regular round, until I had 3 decrease rounds left, and then I just did them one right after the other. It's still damp. I don't know if this is going to fit her quite as well. Oh, this yarn is a one-of-a-kind color. It's very close to my Bronte color, just a little bit more saturated than my Bronte color. She picked it out of my stash. I needed to block this for her. It was a little bit too small because of all of her hair. She has so much thick hair. And so she would put it on and it was just like, zoop, it would squish back up. But I'm pretty sure that now it's been blocked, it's gonna fit her great. So wish me luck. She's not even here for me to try it on. Plus it's still slightly damp, so now would not be the right time. So those were very, very simple, honestly fairly boring, but quick projects. I've had this problem. And I'll get to this project in a little bit, but I have a much more involved project. I have a sweater project that I'm working on. And so it's not really as portable. It's not a take to a meeting, sit in a class and do it kind of project. I'm not knitting on it in church. So I keep casting on small projects so I can have ones for those situations. But then I come home when I should be working on my cardigan, my sweater, and I just want to knit all these small projects. I'm having too much fun with them. So I'm having to have some discipline. Here was the next thing that I finished. And it is this pair of socks. I have 2 of them. I just only have one on the blocker. So this sock was born of the desire to have a navy blue sock that has a fun cuff, because I have a tendency to wear a lot of navy blue. Navy is my black. I don't wear very much black. I have a couple pair of black leggings, but I don't wear a ton of black. Even when that's the case, I tend to reach for my navy leggings more. And I have some navy suede boots. So I want to have something that kind of disappears, because all of my socks are crazy colorful socks. And if you're wearing navy leggings and navy boots, I don't always want hot pink socks poking out of the top of my boots. So I thought, well, maybe I'll make some navy ones. Well, I had this little scrap of yarn. I mean, it was enough to get toes and these bigger cuffs in a pair of socks, but it was not enough to knit a whole sock out of. So I just looked at my scraps and I found this bit of yarn here. This yarn was so fun. Both my sister Deborah and I, independently of each other, purchased this yarn. We got it from Willow Hill, which is a local yarn store. And this was years ago. I want to say it was before 2020. So 2019, 2018, somewhere in there. She had dyed with her friend Maggie, who is Yarnaceous Fibers. She had spent some time dyeing yarn for a Harry Potter themed thing that she was doing in her store. And this yarn was called Transfiguration. And I had knit some socks out of it, and I had enough for this much for 2 socks. I think it was 35 grams that I had. It was under 40 anyway. And so I grabbed another little scrap of this colorway, which is Dickens, a scrap of this, which is Hugo, and then this, and I put these socks together. And I just did a little lacy cuff that creates a little scallop, and then worked some 3x1 ribbing here, just to give it a little bit of interest. I had never knit a sock before that didn't have ribbing at the top. And I just washed and blocked these last night. So I haven't really tried them on. I'm not sure how well they're going to keep where they're supposed to stay. You know, are they going to stay up well? I did put the ribbing here. I think they're probably going to be good. This side looks nicer. This side is kind of the jog where the rows change right in this area. So let's look at this side. I think they're going to be good, but I kind of liked the idea of having a lace cuff. So I'll try those out and see how they work. They're pretty fun. The colors look really nice together. And hopefully only this much is what will stick up out of my boots. We'll see. Oh my goodness. So that's another finished object. And then I have this other sock. I'm going to put this on the sock blocker because it's these I feel like were definitely ones that needed blocking on a blocker because of the stitch pattern. So I have a sock pattern that I'm going to be releasing in March. In fact, let me show you that sock. I showed these when I knit them last year. But this sock pattern uses my Rainbow Edit mini pack and then some just undyed yarn. And it's really fun. You just do this little textured stitch every time you change colors to get this just fun interest in your color changes. I really enjoy that. And so this pattern will be coming out in March. But I thought, I wonder how that would work with some self-striping yarn. These, like I said, I knit with minis, so I very deliberately placed all the color changes. So I knit this pair using that same stitch. I didn't do the same cuff, but I used the same stitch. And I still did the same thing where I did that row every time I changed colors, every time the stripe changed. And they are super fun. I want to show you what the texture looks like. It has almost a waffly texture when you take it off the blockers. But then when it stretches, you can see the kind of laciness to it. It's really fun. It's very, very simple and really fun. This yarn is from PK Yarns, and I will put the name of the yarn colorway in the description box below this video. I used my Whitman colorway. This is my contemporary sock base for the heels, toes, and cuffs. And that is an 80/20 merino nylon 2-ply yarn. So I use that for the contrast, and then this really fun self-striping yarn. Here you can see it without the texture on the back, and then with the texture on the front. So fun. I really, really had a great time knitting those. Pamela at PK Yarns is just delightful. She's another Utah yarn dyer. We have so many amazing yarn dyers here in Utah. We have PK Yarns that I've mentioned. We have Candy Shop Yarns that I've mentioned. We have Yarnaceous Fibers that I've mentioned. And now that I've started naming people, I'm like, oh no, I am gonna leave somebody out. We have Yarn Cafe Creations. We have Dragon Horde Yarn. We have 2 other people that are in my brain, but, 3. Sinful Yarns. I know we have at least 3 others that have just disappeared from my mind. 4. There's Yarn Nouveau. Anyway, you can comment if you know other yarn dyers from Utah. Put them in the comments below, because I'm just spacing it because I'm putting myself on the spot. But there's a lot of talent here. So it's really neat to be able to share those and see what everybody else makes. And I love being able to not just use my own yarns. I do use my own yarns, as you can see, a lot, especially in my designing. But I also love being able to get yarns from other amazing yarn dyers, not just local ones, but all over. It's great. I should mention what I am wearing. I haven't worn this in forever, and it was just because it was under other things. This is my Scrappy Bias Shawl, my original Scrappy Bias Shawl. Any of you who have followed along with me for very long know that I designed this years and years ago, and it has definitely been my most popular pattern. It is a free pattern now. It's on Ravelry only. Because it's a free pattern, my shop does not support having free patterns. They have to be paid for patterns, but it is available on Ravelry. And if you don't use Ravelry, but you would like a copy of this pattern, just send me an email. My email information is below. I will happily send you a copy of this pattern. It's very simple. It is a asymmetrical triangular shawl that is knit on the bias, and you just use your scraps, and it's so much fun. It's very simple. It's a great yarn eating project. I love to tie little knots in the yarn ends. I think it looks so cute like that. And I tend to wear it either bandana style with those ends hanging down, with my little knotted ends hanging down, or I will even tie these ends together and tuck them underneath the flap and wear it like a cowl. And it's so simple. You need 200 grams of fingering weight yarn, and you can just start pulling your scraps out. And honestly, you can make it bigger or smaller if you want, but that's the size that I made. It's so fun and easy, and it's a great scrappy project. And I thought, I haven't spotlighted this little lovely in so long, and it's so fun. It's so popular. I think I've had somewhere in the neighborhood of 30,000 people download this shawl. And so that just makes me so happy. It's really, really fun. So yeah, enjoy. Hope you enjoy that. All right, those are all of my finished objects. So I had my shawl, I have my 2 hats, and my 2 pairs of socks. And now let me show you my works in progress. And I am very much excited to share them. One of them I've already shown a little bit, and that is my cardigan. This is my cardigan, my me designed cardigan that I have already knit one for myself. And then this is my second sample. I knit the largest size for myself, and now I am knitting the smallest size. And the goal being twofold. One is to make sure that I knit those that are on the extremes of the size spectrum, if you will, to watch for fit and grading before it goes to test knitters. Another one is that I want to use it for photos. I want to have a model for both sizes. And I can only manage to knit 2 of these myself. So here is the back of the cardigan. You can see that lacy panel going down the back. And here is the front so far. Again, that lacy panel that goes around the collar and down the front. I love designs like this that have the front band knit at the same time as the rest of the cardigan, so that by the time you're finished. You don't have to go back and pick up more stitches to do any other trim. So I am about halfway done. This is a tunic length, a mid-thigh, long, open, flowy cardigan. And I am about halfway down the side, at least for the side increases. It's A-line, and so there's increases happening. And I have completed 5 of the 10 sets of increases. So then I will just, after I finish all those increases, I will just need to continue to knit it to the proper measurement for my model. And yeah, it's coming along. This colorway, not showing up super great in this lighting. This is my Dickens colorway. It's actually the same colorway as the heels and that little band on these socks that I showed you. Rich wine color, really beautiful, and I'm just loving it. And I'm knitting this in my Biography sock base, which I love so much. So this is the one that I need to work on whenever I am at home. I knit the first one, which is a 4X. This is a small. And you'd think that it would take me half the time to make it. It has half the stitches, maybe not quite half, but maybe, I don't know. Certainly much, much, much less. You'd think it would take me less time than the first time I knit it, but no, it's taking me much longer. I'm having a hard time making myself do it. I think it's a little bit of the been there, done that kind of syndrome that's happening. Once I actually get it out and work on it, I really enjoy it. I love knitting it. The yarn is so delightful to work with. I love the lace. It's really fun. Also, sometimes it gets annoying when you're rotating or alternating skeins to just carry the yarns and deal with them. But the yarn's so pretty. I really love it. This is a messy ball of it, but look how pretty that is. Oh, so fun. So I'm working on that. And then yesterday morning, I cast on another project. Do you have a project? Like, what's the last thing that you knit or crocheted? The last thing you made that as soon as you got rolling into it, you were like, oh, this is so enjoyable. That is how I am feeling about this project. So I'd love to know what your projects are that you have felt that way about. A friend of mine, Margaret, was knitting the Simon shawl. And in fact, let me look and see and who this, I was like looking for my phone. Haha, I don't have it on me. Notice I usually keep it in my bra. Horrible habit. My grandson knows that that's where I keep my phone, and I'll pick him up and he will stick his hand right down in my shirt trying to find my phone. Little stinker. I will put a note in the show notes below about who is the designer for the Simon shawl. But it is this kind of houndstooth fabric, and it's made with garter stitch and slip stitches using 2 different colors. This is a provisional cast on. But the fun thing about the Simon shawl is that included free in the Simon shawl are instructions on how to knit the Simon cowl. And if you don't think Simon Cowl is a funny name for something, then you haven't watched like America's Got Talent or Britain's Got Talent or what was that show we used to watch all the time? American Idol, Simon Cowell. Anyway, just thought that was funny. So she had knit the shawl and I was oohing and awing over it. And I thought, well, I'm going to knit the cowl version because I had these 2 partial skeins. Neither of them was a full skein. And I thought they would just be lovely for it. And this pattern calls for 50 grams each of 2 different fingering weight yarns. So here, these are both main skeins from some of my sock sets. This is the main skein from the Handsome Enough to Tempt Me sock set. And this is the main skein from the Humperdinck sock set. So this is a Jane Austen colorway, and this one is from Princess Bride. And I thought they were really fun together. And so I pulled those out and I cast on the Simon cowl. And it's really fun. It has I-cord edges at the top and bottom. Now that I'm this far into it, I wish I would have done the I-cord all in the purple, just so you had a little contrast at the top and bottom. So that's my only regret, but it's all right. Something I will say about this pattern is that it was originally knit to be a shawl, or excuse me, written to be a shawl. And so the directions for the cowl are very, very simple. And I'll be honest, it's almost like you have to have already knit the shawl once to be able to as quickly pick up on the cowl instructions. So I cast on and I started working on the cowl instructions and then realized I was not interpreting them correctly. There is some room for interpretation. And so I went back and read through everything and then did a little bit of, I don't know, calculating and looking at the pattern. And the main thing to note about it is it has section numbers in the shawl. Like section 1 is kind of your beginning part. And then section 2 and section 3 is your very graduated increase. Section 4 is your no increases section. Section 5 is your decrease section. But in the shawl pattern, it says, here's all the rows. And now here's how many times you work those repeats of how many times you repeat those rows. When the cowl says work section 4, my initial interpretation was do those rows and do the repeats that are written for section 4. But that was not correct. The repeats for section 4 are for the shawl. So I don't know if that made any sense. So I had to write it out myself and be like, work rows 1 through 4 one time instead of work section 4. I can't do that because in section 4 instructions include all these extra repeats anyway. But I did figure it out and now I'm just enjoying it so much. It's the kind of thing where I have to look at the instructions for every right side row, but only for this much of it, just that increase part, just how to get it started. And then I know how to work the whole row from there. And so that's another thing that I went down and I got an index card and just wrote those little beginning of each row instructions out on the index card. So I can just stick that index card. In fact, it's right here. I have my index card, and that just is a lot easier for me to follow. I'm making it sound like it's more complicated than it is. It's really not complicated. I just needed to pay attention to what I was doing is all it really was. So that's as far as I've gotten. I just cast it on yesterday and I came home, I cast it on, then took it with me to go to my class that I was teaching. And while I was not the teacher, we have multiple teachers. And while I was in the observer part of the class, I was working on this. And then of course, once it was my turn to teach, I had to put it away. And I came home and I pulled it out and I was like, okay, let's get some more work done on it. And I stopped myself and I put it away and I got out my cardigan. So I really want to just work on it. It's so extremely delightful in the fabric. The fabric is awesome. It's squishy and stretchy and just luscious. It's delightful. Isn't it fun? And it's very, very simple. It's just addictive. So addictive. I just want to work on it. No, I have to work on my cardigan. Darn, my beautiful, beautiful cardigan. What a darn shame. Life is rough. So, any other books, stuff that I want to talk about before shop news? I've talked about this so many times on this podcast, but I am yet again struggling to find books that meet a very specific, actually quite wide, but I guess I have high expectations of books. I want books that aren't full of spice, aren't stuffed with swearing, have beautiful writing, and are compelling, like page turnery kind of books. You know, the books that you want to just keep going, just keep going. I want all four of those things. And I can find books that are 2 or 3, but really struggling with finding all 4. I find books that are compelling, interesting, good writing, and then garbage everywhere placed in that book. For me, it's garbage. It's not the stuff I want to read. I don't want a bunch of on-page sex scenes and tons of foul language. There are occasional times where you need some of one of those or both of those for very specific reasons for the plot points. But that is not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the stuff that it's like, this is the whole point of reading this book. Or I can find things that are clean, beautifully written, as far as the prose is really beautiful. And yet I can't give it any attention. I can't find my way to engage my brain into it. And I love classics. I really do. So I have read a lot of classics, and I'm not adverse to putting some mental work in. But if I am on page 150 and I don't yet care about a single person in this book, and I don't have any interest in the plot line, yeah. So I'm struggling. So I do a lot of rereading because I know if I pick up this book that I already really enjoyed, it is very likely I will enjoy it again. But I don't want to just keep rereading all the time. So I did read a book called First Lie Wins in January. And it was one where it had a lot of bad language in it that I did not appreciate. And so I didn't care for that. But it was engaging. It was interesting. I don't know. It was fine. I did read a really interesting book called The Art Thief. This was recommended by a friend of mine, and her name's Amy. And it's a true story. It's kind of I don't want to call it a memoir. It's basically a true crime book, but it's all about a story about a real art thief and his whole process. It was fascinating, honestly. But it was like I read it in like a day and a half, and so it was quickly there and back again. Read and done. So if you have a book recommendation that meets all 4 of those, it's probably time for some more Rosamund Pilcher. I think that's what I need to do, because I only read one of her books and I really, really enjoyed it. So I think I will go look at her list and pick another one. All right, let's talk about shop news. I have some beautiful things coming to the shop. It is taking me a while to restock the shop because, like, as I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, I'm figuring out my routine, doing this on my own. So let me share what is coming up. So in December, there were all the people that were opening their Christmas at Orchard House, which is a Little Women reference, Christmas countdown boxes. And I had 5 different sock sets and stitch markers and little extras and everything, plus a pattern that went with each of the 4 March girls. And those yarns are now going to be in the shop, and they are all on different bases. So let me walk you through them. The first one is called Meg, and it is on my contemporary sock base. It's a very rich, beautiful set. Contemporary sock is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. And these colorways were designed for these specific bases. So they will be on these bases. And you'll see why in just a minute. Some of them wouldn't even translate. So there's Meg. Next we have Joe. This is Joe. And Joe is on my literary yak sock base, which is 70% superwash merino, 20% yak, and 10% nylon. And yak is a naturally, the undyed yarn is a fairly dark kind of taupe colored, grayish brown, which then of course we've dyed over. But that's why, so, I mean, it's for both of these. So that's why it would not translate. If I were to try and dye the same color on a different base, it would be a very, very light color. But this base, oh my gosh, it's so good. It has this amazing quality to it that it's smooth. It's soft. It's not itchy at all. It's neck soft. But it's also, I don't know, what's a good way to describe it? It's got a different weight to it, just a different feel to it. It's just beautiful. So it reads from here, it just reads very kind of cool brown, but it's got bits of purple and blue and even green speckled throughout it. And then this beautiful warm blue mini that goes with it. Next is Beth. This is Beth. Very soft, delicate pinks and grays. Very lightly speckled with a soft pink mini. And this is on my Biography sock base, which is that 85-15 extra fine merino nylon base. So that's Beth. And then here is Amy. And Amy is on my sparkle sock base. I'm hoping some of that sparkle is showing up. I think it looks to me like an impressionist painting kind of. And so Amy was the painter of the group. So that's Amy. This one is 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 5% gold stellina, which is what gives us the sparkle. So those Little Women sock sets are now available in the shop. And I designed patterns for each of these. It's actually the mix and match March Girls pattern has a different cuff and all over stitch pattern designed for each of the girls. So it's a great way to use up your 4 sets, or just 1 set or whatever. So I'm going to put a picture in here of Amy, my friend Amy, knit a pair of socks using the Meg set. She just used the main colorway and she knit the Meg sock pattern with it. And they're so pretty. And then she also knit the Joe pattern using the Joe set. So I just thought those turned out so nice. So those are available in the shop. I did have several people contact me saying that they had had some serious FOMO about that box. And so they wanted that. And I will be doing a Christmas box this year. I'm still working on plans, so I'm not ready to announce anything yet. It's only February. And I know a lot of people announce their stuff so early. I need time to really make sure I am solid in what I want to do, because it's a lot of investment in time and money to create these boxes. And so bear with me for a little bit. All right, the next thing that I wanted to show you is the February color for the You've Got Mail set. Our first month was Shop Around the Corner. And that one was so fun. And so this one is called Butterfly on the Subway. How many of you are You've Got Mail fans and can remember this part? She says, Kathleen says, the other day what did she say? Once I read a book about a butterfly on the subway, and today I actually saw one. I'm not going to get this exactly right. She said something about like he got on at such and such a street and then got off on this street where I presume he's going to Bloomingdale's, probably to buy a hat, which will turn out to be a mistake, as almost all hats are. So this is Butterfly on the Subway, and it's here in my classic DK base. So for those of you who love to knit DK socks, or you want to do hats or cowls or whatever you want to do with your DK yarn, and then on the contemporary base, contemporary sock, it's so much fun. It's this light orchidy purple with deeper purples and a little bit of greens and blues and pinks in it. Really fun. So that's Butterfly on the Subway. And those are in the shop now. It will be only there for the month of February. And I have it available. Is it just on those two bases? I'm pretty sure I have it on Contemporary Sock, Classic DK, and on Sci-Fi Sparkle. So you can get Butterfly on the Subway on any of those. I also still have my Lord of the Rings sets for February. January set was called The Long Expected Party, and here's a picture of it. And it turned out so fun. It reminds me of like party buntings. And so February's colorway, and this one is a mystery, so you don't get to see the yarn beforehand. This one is called Second Breakfast. So I'm really excited about that. That's from the Shire Club, Mystery Sock Set Club. And that's also available on Classic DK or on Biography Sock, that 85.15. So that's all the shop news I have coming. I will be doing a testing call hopefully next time. I just realized I need to stop because I do have one more thing I forgot to share. I had a lovely, or a few of you lovelies ask, did you ever find a name for your pink yarn? And I had to respond and say, no, because, well, yes, I had picked a name, but I was having trouble reproducing the pink color. But I finally got the pink that I want. So here is a picture of the beautiful pink. And the name of this yarn is going to be Beatrix. So I have to go back through my comments and find out who it was that commented and said you should name it Beatrix, as in Beatrix Potter. All my other author colors are named after the last name, but Potter is just not recognizable enough, and Beatrix is so perfect. So this color is called Beatrix. And so I will find you, and you're either tagged here on the bottom of the screen. That's probably where you are. I'm putting your name right here at the bottom of the screen. So send me an email in my email address that is listed in the description box. And I will be giving you one skein of your choice of base. You can look at any of my author colors on my website and see the bases that are available, and I will dye that for you and send that to you. So thank you for helping me pick the name of Beatrix. I really appreciate that. I'm excited to finally have that pink figured out. I just had it in my head wrong and I kept dyeing it. I'm like, why isn't this turning out? Maybe I measured it incorrectly. No, it's because I was using the wrong color dye. Sometimes I'm smart, but I got it figured out. So the beautiful color Beatrix is also now in the shop on 7 different bases, and our lucky winner will get to pick a skein of the base that you choose. That is all my shop news, and thank you so much. I will have some testing calls coming up for the Strawberry Bay Shawl, for the Rainbow Socks pattern, and hopefully soon, we'll see, for my new cardigan. I need to name the socks and I need to name the cardigan. So I'll be working on that. And in the meantime, I just hope you have so much fun with all of your making. I am certainly going to have a lot of fun with mine, and I'm just really looking forward to the rest of February. So happy January is over. Looking forward to the rest of February. And I will talk to you all very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.